busted out my Walmart cat Christmas sweater. Look at that, my hoodie. Anyways, I wanted to make a video about the books that I've been reading lately because I have been reading a lot of books. I guess you have time when you're unemployed. But I wanted to just make a video about it, and you know, maybe this is not an interesting video, but if you're looking for something to read, these may be up your alleyway. So, I have a Kindle, I also have Audible, and I also just buy books, just buy print copies of books. Now, I don't collect print copies of books. I actually hate having print copies of books because I'm not one to go back and read them again. Like, I don't know, I can't do that. I'm not a second-time movie watcher or a second-time book reader. I can't do it because once I start, like, rereading and remembering the things that went on in the book, I'm done. I get bored and I have to put it away and not read it anymore. So, I don't really like hard copies of books at all, really. I recently found out about, actually from another YouTuber, is Libby, which you go get a library card and then you can electronically check out books. You can either check them out to listen to them or you can check them out to read them on your Kindle, which is super awesome. So, sometimes there is a wait list, but I actually did get, like, one of the books. I got it without having to wait at all on my Kindle. So, anyways, so let's talk about the books that I've read lately. And this is, so I bought this on Amazon. And it's because somebody might ask me, like, oh, did you read that book? And I have a terrible memory, so I'm like, I don't know. This also helps me to have a list of books that I want to read, basically just based on ads or other vloggers or whatever. So I've been trying to keep track of the books that I want to read, and so, like, I've got my list here, and I've, like, dotted things that I've got on hold in Libby, and I've highlighted things that I've actually already read on this list. So I started this back in, it looks like back in July or June, actually. I just happened to go to the bookstore with my daughter, and I was like, man, I should be doing something else with my time besides watching YouTube videos and TikToks and stuff. So I got a couple of books while I was there at the bookstore. I got the Handmaid's Tale because I've been watching the series on TV, and so I was like, well, I always like to know how books compare to their shows. Most of the time I'm a little bit disappointed, but that's mostly because I grew up reading a whole lot of Stephen King books, and he is, if you don't know, extremely gruesome and detailed in his books, and I guess they just can't depict that on TV like they can in the book. Like, anybody who actually read it was a thick book, but anybody who actually read it, the book, knows that the movie didn't really come close to, I mean, it came close, but there was certain parts in the book that there's no way they could have depicted that on a movie. They would have never been able to air it. So anyways, so the first one was Handmaid's Tale. So I read that one because I wanted to see how closely it resembled the actual show. It does, if you're interested. The book actually does resemble the show. I've heard other people say that they didn't like Handmaid's Tale, the book, but I thought it was pretty good. It was a little bit difficult to read, but it's also an older book. So they're not talking to you like they're your best friend or anything like that. It's just, you know, from June's perspective, and it also ends a long time before the series actually ends. And Margaret Atwood does have another book, but it's not like the series that's on TV. So that's the first book I read. I would recommend The Handmaid's Tale if you're watching the series. I would, just to compare it. And so then I listened to Where the Crawdads Sing, and I really, really enjoyed that. I think that honestly I wouldn't have enjoyed it as much had I read it versus listening to it. Oh, let me show you how I do my pages on here. So see, I'll put a little picture of the cover, and then it asks like little questions about the book, and it has you rate it and stuff like that. That's been like everybody's heard about the Crawdads Sing, where the Crawdads Sing, and I went and watched the movie after I finished the book, and again, it wasn't the same as the book, but it was really close. Like, that movie was really close to the book, in my opinion. And I really enjoyed listening to it. And I know that I wouldn't have enjoyed reading it as much as I enjoyed listening to it because... Did I put it on here? So I didn't put on there who was the narrator for it, because I think that when you listen to a book, it really depends on the narrator, whether you're going to like it or not. Because the narrator could be terrible. So, Where the Crawdads Sing, the narrator, which I didn't write it down who it was, but the narrator was really good about doing different voices. So you knew when different people were talking, because there was a different voice for everybody. And I think that there maybe sometimes they have different people do the voices for different people. I'm not sure. I don't know how that works. But it seemed like this is the same person narrating the whole thing, and they just did different voices. That's how it seemed. And it was good. So... Where the Crawdads Sing, that was a really sweet story. I really enjoyed that. Then I read Girl in Pieces. Should I be telling y'all what these are about? I mean, everybody, basically, The Handmaid's Tale, you pretty much know about that dystopian society where fertile women are made to have babies for the elite. And then Where the Crawdads Sing is about, a coming-of-age story, basically, with a little mystery. And then the next one is Girl in Pieces by Kathleen Glasgow. This one, it just was sitting in the bookstore, and I like the cover of it. Here, I'll show you. I liked the cover of it, and I read it, and it seemed like the story behind it was, kind of sounded like it could be, well, not really my life, but like I related to the main character. It's, again, another coming of age, a girl trying to fight addiction, and it was easy to read. I did find out later that it was like an older teen book, but whatever. That's probably why it was easy to read. Now this one, A Little Life. This one I listened to, and it was difficult. I don't think I could have read it. It was extremely, extremely long. And a lot of people said that it's just too long. It's too much. But I feel like it was necessary to give you all the feels, because this one was difficult. It was extremely triggering. There's a lot of essay and just a lot. So it was a little bit triggering and a little bit hard to read, but it was so good. Like, it was sad too. Like, this would be, if this is not already a movie, which I haven't looked into it at all, then it should be. Like, obviously they wouldn't be able to go into as much detail about the main character as they did in the book, I think. Well, they might be able to, but it would be a really great movie to watch. I enjoyed it. Like, even though it was really long, and I don't think I could have read it the way that I listened to it, it drew you in. I always wanted to know what was going to happen next. I felt for the characters in the book. So, I enjoyed it. Some people, maybe, I've heard some people didn't even finish it, but to me, because I listened to it, I really enjoyed it. And then this next one I read, actually, because No Rules Rules, Netflix and the Culture of Reinvention. I actually read this one because I applied for a job, and they talked so much about this is their culture, this is what they go by, blah, blah, blah. So I decided I was going to read it. It wasn't a very long book, but I decided that I was going to, it took me 3 days, it looks like. So I decided that I was going to read it. And it's a nice idea, but I feel like it would only work in a large, tech corporation, a company that has a lot of money, like Microsoft and Google and, those kinds of places. They would be able to pull this type of thing off. And it's only for higher level employees, executives, for people like me who usually work at the bottom, it's not really feasible, I don't think. But, so there was that one. And then I read I'm Glad My Mom Died by Jeanette McCurdy. It's basically just a memoir. Some things were a little bit unbelievable, but also, you don't know what goes on behind closed doors. So I found it enjoyable. It was enjoyable. It's nice to know how, I say enjoyable. I'm not enjoying her pain of how she grew up or anything, but the writing style was fun, I guess is what I should say. So that was a fun book to read. And then I was at Target looking at the books, and I wanted Fairy Tale by Stephen King, but then I saw an ad on the little Target TV that talked about Billy Summers. And I was like, oh, well, that one must be newer than Fairy Tale, so let me pick that one up instead. So it's not newer, but it was a pretty good read, but I was not happy with the ending. So I read that, an actual physical book. It's about a ex-military person that turns into a hitman, basically, and it was good. I just finished The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, and that's the one that I borrowed from Libby. I enjoyed it. I thought it was a fun story. It's basically about a girl that makes a deal with the devil. It's pretty much. And I thought it was a fun book to read. She had a lot of FOMO. I guess that's the best way to put it, is she had a lot of FOMO. She was very inquisitive. She had a very inquisitive nature. So, I thought that was a fun book to read. So, and then now I'm currently reading Fairy Tale by Stephen King. Should I even put the fairy tale in this little vlog? Well, I really enjoy reading a lot. I stopped doing it for a really long time. I felt like I didn't have time, and even now, I'm like, people who work full-time jobs and have families and stuff, I'm like, when do you find the time to read all these books? Because I feel like I'm not doing the things that I'm supposed to be doing when I'm reading. This is a pretty neat little book that I got just to remember the books that I read and to write a little line or two about them. The Kindle now, you can highlight little passages that you like to highlight. Like maybe you like, oh, that's a nice quote or whatever. You can highlight on there. That's all I have for y'all today, and I hope you enjoyed it. Maybe you'll get the reading bug in you to go find a book or a comic book or a graphic novel or a magazine or something to read. Okay, bye!